Maya Chin had never held a real gun in her life. The closest she had come to anything resembling marksmanship was the plastic water guns her younger brother used to chase her around the backyard with during hot summer afternoons. At 24, she worked as a librarian in the quiet town of Cedar Falls, spending her days organizing books, helping elderly patrons find large print novels, and maintaining the silence that libraries were famous for. Her world was one of whispered conversations, rustling pages, and the soft clicks of computer keyboards. The invitation to the Cedar Falls annual charity shooting competition had arrived in her mailbox by mistake. The envelope was addressed to Maya Chun, but it should have gone to Marcus Chun, her neighbor 3 houses down who owned a gun shop and regularly participated in shooting sports. Maya had walked over to Marcus's house that Tuesday evening, envelope in hand, ready to correct the postal error. Marcus answered the door in his work clothes, grease stains on his hands from cleaning rifles. He was a kind man in his 50s who had served in the military before opening his shop. Maya had spoken to him maybe a dozen times over the years, usually when signing for packages that got delivered to the wrong address. "This came to my place," Maya said, holding out the envelope. "I think it's meant for you." Marcus took the envelope and examined it carefully. His eyebrows raised as he read the address labeled twice. "Actually, Maya, this is addressed to you specifically. See here? It has your exact address, and they've written Mess Maya Chun on the invitation inside." Maya felt confused. She opened the envelope and read the formal invitation printed on heavy cardstock. The Cedar Falls annual charity shooting competition was inviting her to participate in their upcoming event. The competition would raise money for the local children's hospital, and they were seeking community members to participate in various shooting challenges. "There must be some mistake," Maya said. "I don't know anything about guns. I've never even held one." Marcus smiled gently. "Well, the invitation says they received your name as someone interested in participating. Sometimes people nominate others for community events like this. Did anyone suggest you might enjoy target shooting?" Maya thought back over recent conversations. Her coworker Janet had been talking about trying new hobbies. Her mother had mentioned something about Maya being too focused on work and needing to get out more. But neither of them knew anything about shooting sports either. "I really don't think this is for me," Maya said. "I wouldn't know the first thing about handling a gun safely." The invitation mentions they provide full training and safety instruction for beginners, Marcus pointed out. "And it's for a good cause. The Children's Hospital could really use the funding." Maya read through the invitation again. The event was scheduled for the following Saturday at the Cedar Falls shooting range. Participants would receive 2 hours of basic firearms safety training before the competition began. The format included several different challenges designed to accommodate shooters of all skill levels. "I don't know, Marcus. This seems way outside my comfort zone. Sometimes the best experiences come from trying something completely new," Marcus said. "And the training part would at least teach you about gun safety, which is useful knowledge for anyone to have." Maya walked home with the invitation, her mind spinning. She had always been someone who preferred familiar routines and predictable activities. Her weekends typically involved reading, gardening, or visiting her parents. The idea of handling firearms felt foreign and slightly intimidating. That evening, she called her best friend Sarah, who lived 2 towns over and worked as a nurse. "You got invited to a shooting competition?" Sarah laughed. "Maya, you won't even use the stapler at work when it makes that loud clicking sound." "I know it sounds crazy," Maya said, "but it's for charity and they promise complete beginner training. Are you actually considering this?" Maya surprised herself by saying, "Maybe. I've been feeling like I'm stuck in a rut lately. Work, home, repeat. Maybe trying something totally different would be good for me." "Well, if you're serious about it, I think it could be interesting," Sarah said. "You're actually quite focused when you concentrate on something. Remember how you learned to play piano in 6 months when you decided you wanted to? You have good hand-eye coordination from all that detailed library work, too." The more Maya thought about it over the next few days, the more curious she became. She had always been detail-oriented and patient. Her job required steady hands for handling delicate old books, and precise movements when operating the microfilm machines. Perhaps those skills might translate to marksmanship in some way. She decided to visit Marcus's gun shop on Thursday evening to learn more about what the competition might involve. The shop was larger inside than it appeared from the street. Glass cases displayed various types of firearms, and the walls were lined with rifles and shotguns. Maya felt nervous stepping into such an unfamiliar environment. "Maya," Marcus greeted her warmly. "Have you decided about the competition?" "I'm thinking about it," she said. "But I wanted to understand what I'd be getting into first." Marcus spent the next hour explaining the basics of firearm safety, showing her different types of guns, and describing what a typical shooting competition involved. He demonstrated proper stance and grip using an unloaded practice pistol, guiding her through the basic motions. The competition uses .22 caliber target rifles and pistols, he explained. They're perfect for beginners because they have very little recoil and are quite accurate. The targets will be at various distances, and you'll be shooting at paper targets with different scoring rings. Maya was surprised by how natural it felt to hold the practice pistol when Marcus showed her the proper grip. Her hands were steady, and the weight felt manageable. "You have good natural form," Marcus observed. "Your hands don't shake, and you're keeping your breathing controlled. Those are important fundamentals." "Really?" "Absolutely. Some people get nervous and tense up immediately when they handle a firearm, even an unloaded one. You seem quite calm." Maya left the gun shop, feeling more confident about the possibility of participating. She had learned that the competition would involve 5 different challenges: precision shooting at stationary targets, timed shooting at multiple targets, shooting from different positions, a moving target challenge, and a final accuracy round that determined the overall winner. Friday evening, Maya made her final decision. She would participate in the charity shooting competition. She spent time that night researching basic marksmanship principles online, reading about breathing techniques, sight alignment, and trigger control. The information was fascinating and more technical than she had expected. Saturday morning arrived with clear skies and mild temperatures. Maya drove to the Cedar Falls shooting range feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement. The facility was larger than she had imagined, with multiple outdoor ranges and a substantial clubhouse. About 30 people had gathered for the competition, ranging in age from teenagers to senior citizens. Maya was relieved to see that she wasn't the only person who looked uncertain about what they were doing. Several participants appeared to be complete beginners like herself. The registration process was straightforward. Maya received a competitor number, safety equipment including eye and ear protection, and a schedule of events. She noticed that 8 other competitors had signed up for the same beginner-friendly division she had chosen. The safety training session began at 9 o'clock sharp. A certified instructor named Tom explained the fundamental rules of firearm safety, demonstrated proper handling techniques, and guided each participant through basic shooting positions. Maya found herself absorbing the information easily, and her natural attention to detail served her well in following the precise instructions. Remember, Tom emphasized, shooting is 90% mental. Physical technique is important, but your mental approach determines your success. Stay calm, breathe steadily, and focus on your fundamentals. Maya nodded, thinking that this advice sounded similar to what her piano teacher had told her years ago. Excellence in any skill seemed to require the same basic principles: patience, practice, and mental discipline. When the safety training concluded, participants were divided into their respective competition groups. Maya found herself assigned to Range 3 along with her 8 fellow competitors in the novice division. She recognized a few faces from town: David, who worked at the post office, Jennifer, a teacher at the elementary school, and Robert, who owned the local hardware store. The first challenge would begin in 15 minutes. Maya used the time to review the shooting stance and grip that Tom had taught them, practicing the motions with an empty rifle. Her hands felt steady, and her breathing remained controlled despite her racing heart. She had no idea that in the next 15 minutes, she would discover a talent she never knew she possessed, and that those 8 fellow competitors would witness something extraordinary that would change how everyone in Cedar Falls viewed the quiet librarian who spent her days surrounded by books. The morning sun climbed higher in the sky as Maya prepared for her first real test with live ammunition. She adjusted her safety equipment and took her position at the firing line, completely unaware that she was about to demonstrate a level of marksmanship that would leave experienced shooters amazed and her competitors thoroughly outmatched. The instructor called for participants to load their rifles and prepare for the first round of competition. Maya's hands moved confidently through the loading procedure she had just learned, and she settled into her shooting position with an ease that surprised even her. The target downrange seemed to come into sharp focus as she aligned her sights, her breathing naturally falling into the rhythm Tom had described. In the moments before the command to commence firing, Maya felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. All the nervousness and uncertainty that had filled her thoughts over the past week seemed to evaporate. Her world narrowed to the sight picture in front of her, the steady rhythm of her breathing, and the precise control required to squeeze the trigger smoothly. She had no way of knowing that she was about to embark on the most remarkable 15 minutes of competitive shooting that the Cedar Falls range had ever witnessed. The command to commence firing echoed across the range. Maya exhaled slowly and squeezed the trigger with gentle, steady pressure, just as the instructor had demonstrated. The rifle fired with a sharp crack that seemed muffled by her ear protection. Through her scope, she watched the bullet strike the center ring of her target with precision that surprised her. "Nice shot," called David from the firing position next to her. He had been shooting recreationally for several years and was considered one of the more experienced competitors in their division. Maya loaded another round and repeated the process. Her second shot landed within millimeters of the first, creating what marksmen call a touching group. The instructor, Tom, walked behind the firing line observing each competitor's performance. When he reached Maya's position, he stopped and raised his binoculars to examine her target more carefully. The first challenge required 10 shots at a standard bullseye target from a distance of 50 yards. Competitors would be scored based on accuracy, with points awarded for each shot depending on which scoring ring it struck. The center ring was worth 10 points, with decreasing values for outer rings. Maya settled into a comfortable rhythm. Her breathing became automatic, her grip remained consistent, and each trigger squeeze felt natural and controlled. Shot after shot, her bullets found the center of the target with remarkable consistency. By her 7th shot, she had created a cluster of holes in the target's center rings so tight that they appeared to overlap. Other competitors began to notice. Jennifer, the elementary school teacher, was struggling to keep her shots on the target at all. Robert from the hardware store had managed to hit the scoring area, but was scattered across several different rings. David, despite his experience, was achieving respectable accuracy, but nothing approaching Maya's level of precision. "Has she done this before?" whispered another competitor to Tom. "First time handling a firearm," Tom replied quietly, his eyes fixed on Maya's target through his spotting scope. "I've been instructing for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this from a complete beginner." Maya fired her 10th and final shot of the first challenge. When the range was declared safe and targets were examined, the results were stunning. Maya had scored a perfect 100 points with all 10 shots landing in the center ring. Her shot group measured less than half an inch across, which would have been impressive for an experienced marksman using high-end equipment. David walked over to examine Maya's target personally. "Maya, are you absolutely sure you've never done this before? This is competitive-level shooting." Maya felt as surprised as everyone else. "I honestly have no idea how that happened. It just felt natural somehow." The second challenge involved transitioning between multiple targets at varying distances. 5 targets were positioned at ranges from 25 to 75 yards, and competitors had to engage each target in sequence within a time limit of 3 minutes. This challenge tested not only accuracy, but Also the ability to quickly adjust for different distances and maintain precision under time pressure. Maya approached the firing line for the second challenge with growing confidence. The first round had revealed something unexpected about her capabilities, and she was curious to see if her performance would continue. She studied the 5 targets carefully, noting their distances and planning her sequence of engagement. The timer started, and Maya began with the closest target. Her first shot struck center, and she smoothly transitioned to the second target without rushing. Her natural patience, developed through years of detailed library work, served her well. While other competitors hurried and made errors under time pressure, Maya maintained her steady rhythm. Target after target fell to her precise shooting. Her transitions between distances were smooth, and she seemed to instinctively adjust for the different ranges without the calculations that typically challenged new shooters. With 30 seconds remaining on the timer, Maya had successfully engaged all 5 targets with center hits. Time! Tom called out. When the targets were scored, Maya had again achieved maximum points. Every shot had found the center ring of its respective target, despite the varying distances and time pressure. The other competitors were beginning to realize they were witnessing something extraordinary. Jennifer approached Maya as they prepared for the third challenge. Maya, this is incredible. How are you doing this? I honestly don't know, Maya replied. I'm just trying to do what Tom taught us in the safety briefing. Focus on the fundamentals, breathe steadily, and squeeze the trigger smoothly. We all heard the same instructions, said Robert, but none of us are shooting like this. The third challenge introduced shooting from different positions: prone, kneeling, standing, and from behind a barricade. This was designed to test adaptability and stability in various scenarios. Each position required 10 shots, for a total of 40 shots that would determine the challenge winner. Maya had never fired from any position other than the bench rest used in the first 2 challenges, but she approached each new position with the same methodical attention to detail that characterized her approach to everything in life. She observed how the instructor demonstrated each position, noted the key stability points, and practiced the movements before loading her rifle. From the prone position, Maya achieved another perfect score. Her shots grouped tightly in the center of the target, taking advantage of the stable platform that the ground provided. Moving to the kneeling position, which was considerably more challenging for maintaining steady aim, Maya adapted quickly to the different balance requirements. Tom watched in amazement as Maya consistently delivered precision shots from each position. In 30 years of shooting, I've seen maybe 3 or 4 natural marksmen with this level of instinctive ability, he told another instructor who had come over to observe. The standing position, typically the most challenging for new shooters, proved no obstacle for Maya. Her shots continued to find the center ring with mechanical precision. Other competitors had begun to gather around whenever she fired, drawn by the unprecedented display of marksmanship skill. David, who had been considered the favorite to win the novice division, was shooting well by normal standards but found himself thoroughly outclassed. Maya, you need to enter advanced competitions, he said. This level of shooting belongs in much higher divisions. The fourth challenge presented the competitors with moving targets for the first time. Clay discs would be launched across the range at different angles and speeds, and participants would attempt to break them with their rifles. This challenge tested tracking ability, timing, and the capacity to lead moving targets correctly. Moving target shooting is typically considered an advanced skill that requires significant practice to master. The clay targets moved quickly across the shooter's field of view, requiring precise timing and the ability to calculate lead distance instinctively. Maya watched the first few clay targets to observe their flight patterns and speed. She noticed that they followed consistent trajectories and maintained relatively steady velocities. When her turn came, she raised her rifle and tracked the first clay smoothly, firing at what felt like the right moment. The clay exploded into fragments. Beginner's luck, someone commented. The second clay launched, following a different angle. Maya tracked it smoothly and fired again. Another clean hit. By the 5th consecutive hit, the comments about luck had stopped. Maya was demonstrating the same natural ability with moving targets that she had shown with stationary ones. Her eye-hand coordination, developed through years of precise work with delicate library materials, translated perfectly to the demands of tracking and engaging moving targets. "This is impossible," muttered Robert. "Moving targets are supposed to be the hardest part of shooting sports." Maya broke 8 out of 10 clay targets in her first attempt at moving target shooting. The two she missed were by margins so small that the clays were chipped but not completely broken. Her score was higher than some experienced shooters achieved in regular practice. Tom approached Maya as they prepared for the 5th and final challenge. "Maya, I need to ask you something directly. Are you absolutely certain you've never received any firearms training? Military service, police training, private instruction, anything at all?" "Nothing," Maya replied. "I told you, I had never even held a real gun before today. What you're doing is extraordinary. I've seen Olympic-level shooters who couldn't match what you've accomplished today, especially not in their first 15 minutes with a firearm." The final challenge was a precision accuracy round that would determine the overall winner of the competition. Each competitor would fire 10 shots at a target with smaller scoring rings than the previous challenges. The center ring was only 1 inch in diameter at a distance of 100 yards, making this a true test of marksmanship skill. Maya approached the firing line for the final time, aware that all 8 of her fellow competitors had been thoroughly outmatched in every previous challenge. The crowd of spectators had grown as word spread through the shooting range about the remarkable performance of the librarian who had never held a gun before. She settled into her position behind the rifle, adjusting her sight picture for the increased distance. The target appeared smaller through her scope, requiring even greater precision than the previous challenges. Maya took her time, applying all the fundamental principles that had served her so well throughout the morning. Her first shot at the 100-yard target struck dead center. The second shot landed so close to the first that the holes nearly touched. Maya continued firing with the same steady rhythm that had characterized her performance all morning, each shot finding the tiny center ring with clockwork precision. When she fired her 10th and final shot of the competition, Maya set down her rifle and removed her ear protection. The range had fallen unusually quiet. Tom was examining her target through a high-powered spotting scope, his expression one of complete disbelief. "Ladies and gentlemen," Tom announced to the gathered crowd, "in 15 minutes of competitive shooting, Maya Chun has achieved perfect scores in every single challenge. All 10 shots in the final precision round landed within the center ring, creating a group that measures less than 3/4 of an inch. The applause that followed was unlike anything typically heard at a shooting competition. Maya had not just defeated her 8 fellow competitors. She had achieved a level of marksmanship that bordered on the impossible for someone with no previous experience. David was the first to approach her after the competition concluded. "Maya, I've been shooting for 12 years, and I couldn't come close to what you did today. You have a gift that maybe one person in a million possesses." As Maya packed up the equipment she had borrowed for the competition, she reflected on the most surprising morning of her life. She had discovered a talent she never suspected she had, excelling at something completely outside her normal experience. The quiet librarian who spent her days organizing books had proven to be a natural marksman of extraordinary ability. The realization that she possessed such an unexpected skill filled Maya with questions about what other hidden capabilities might be waiting to be discovered. For the first time in years, she felt genuinely excited about exploring something new and challenging. She had no way of knowing that her remarkable performance would soon attract attention from people who understood exactly what they had witnessed, and that her quiet life in Cedar Falls was about to become much more interesting. News of Maya's extraordinary performance spread through Cedar Falls faster than she had anticipated. By Monday morning, the local newspaper wanted an interview, and by Tuesday, her phone was ringing with calls from people she barely knew. The story of the librarian who had never held a gun but outshot everyone at the charity competition captured people's imagination in ways Maya hadn't expected. Marcus stopped by the library Tuesday afternoon with a copy of the Cedar Falls Gazette. Maya's photograph was on the front page under the headline, Local Librarian Displays Remarkable Marksmanship Skills. The article described her perfect scores and included quotes from Tom and several competitors who had witnessed her performance. "You're famous now," Marcus said with a grin. "The story's been picked up by the regional papers, too. People are calling my shop asking about you." Maya felt uncomfortable with the attention. She had always preferred staying in the background, handling her work quietly and efficiently without drawing notice. Being the center of public interest felt strange and somewhat overwhelming. "It was just one morning," Maya said. "I'm sure lots of people could do the same thing if they tried." "Maya, I've been involved in shooting sports for 30 years, Marcus replied. "What you did last Saturday was not normal. Tom called me yesterday and said he's never seen anything like it. You scored perfect in every single challenge." The phone at the reference desk rang, interrupting their conversation. Maya answered to find a woman named Carol Peterson on the line, calling from the state capitol. "Ms. Chun, my name is Carol Peterson, and I work with the State Police Training Division. We've heard about your performance at the Cedar Falls competition, and I was hoping to speak with you about an opportunity." Maya felt confused. An opportunity? "We're always interested in identifying individuals with exceptional marksmanship potential. Your scores from Saturday suggest you have natural abilities that could be developed into something quite special. Would you be available to visit our training facility for an evaluation?" "I don't understand. An evaluation for what?" "We have various programs for civilians with exceptional shooting skills. Some lead to competitive opportunities, others to specialized training roles. What you accomplished as a complete beginner suggests you could excel at levels most people never reach." Maya politely declined the invitation, explaining that she was happy with her current job and had no interest in pursuing shooting as anything more than a casual hobby. Carol left her contact information and asked Maya to call if she'd change her mind. Marcus had overheard enough of the conversation to understand what was happening. "Maya, do you realize what that was about? State police don't call people randomly. If they're interested in your shooting ability, it means they see potential for something significant. I'm not interested in changing my whole life because I happen to be good at shooting targets," Maya said. "I like my job here at the library." "I'm not saying you should change careers," Marcus replied, "but maybe you should explore this talent you've discovered. At the very least, you might enjoy competing in some local matches." Over the next few days, Maya received several similar calls. A representative from the Olympic Development Program wanted to discuss her potential for competitive shooting. A private security company offered her a position that would involve firearms training and specialized assignments. Even a Hollywood talent agent called, suggesting that her story might interest movie producers. Maya turned down every offer and request for interviews. She wanted her life to return to normal, but the attention continued to grow instead of fading away. The regional newspapers had picked up her story, and shooting sports websites were discussing the mystery librarian who had achieved perfect scores in her first competition. Friday afternoon brought an unexpected visitor to the library. A woman in her 40s entered during the quiet period between the afternoon school rush and the evening crowd. She was professionally dressed and carried herself with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to authority. "Are you Maya Chun?" the woman asked. "Yes, can I help you?" "My name is Agent Sarah Martinez with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'd like to speak with you privately if possible." Maya felt her heart rate increase. "The FBI? What did you possibly want with me?" "It's about your shooting performance last Saturday. Is there somewhere we could talk privately?" Maya led Agent Martinez to the small conference room the library used for meetings with patrons who needed assistance with research projects. She closed the door and took a seat across from the federal agent, feeling increasingly bewildered by the direction her life had taken since the shooting competition. "Ms. Chun, exceptional marksmanship ability like you demonstrated is extremely rare," Agent Martinez began. "When someone with no previous training achieves perfect scores in multiple challenging disciplines, it raises questions about natural talent versus prior experience." "Are you suggesting I lied about being a beginner?" Maya asked, feeling defensive. "Not at all. We verified your background thoroughly. You are exactly who you claim to be, a librarian with no military service, no police training, and no documented firearms experience. That's what makes your performance so remarkable. Agent Martinez opened a folder and showed Maya several photographs. These are targets from Olympic qualifying events, military sniper schools, and FBI training programs. The level of accuracy you achieve in your first 15 minutes with a firearm matches or exceeds what these highly trained individuals accomplished. Maya examined the photographs, noting that many showed shot groups larger and less precise than what she had achieved at the competition. What I'm trying to understand, Agent Martinez continued, is whether you have any family history of military service, particularly in specialized roles involving marksmanship. My father worked in accounting, and my mother was a teacher, Maya replied. Neither of them ever owned guns or had any military background. What about grandparents, uncles, other relatives? Maya thought carefully. My grandfather on my mother's side died when I was very young. I don't know much about his background. My grandmother never talked about him much, except to say that he died in an accident when my mother was a teenager. Agent Martinez made notes in her folder. Do you know your grandfather's full name and approximate age when he died? Edward Morrison. He would have been in his 40s, I think. Why are you asking about my family? Sometimes exceptional abilities run in families, even when the connection isn't obvious. There have been cases where genetic predisposition for specific skills remained dormant until triggered by exposure to the right circumstances. You think shooting ability is inherited? Maya asked. Complex skills like precision marksmanship involve multiple factors: hand-eye coordination, spatial reasoning, fine motor control, stress management, and visual processing. All of these have genetic components, though environmental factors matter too. Agent Martinez closed her folder and looked directly at Maya. Ms. Chun, I'm going to be straightforward with you. The FBI has programs that could benefit from someone with your natural abilities. We're not talking about changing your career or lifestyle dramatically. These would be specialized consulting arrangements that work around your current job. What kind of consulting? Training roles, primarily, helping us understand how natural marksmanship ability develops. Possibly assisting with firearms instruction for agents who need to improve their skills. Nothing dangerous or requiring you to leave Cedar Falls. Maya felt overwhelmed by the complexity the simple shooting competition had introduced into her life. A week ago, her biggest decision was which books to feature in the library's monthly display. Now federal agents were discussing her genetic potential and offering consulting positions. I need time to think about this, Maya said. Of course. Take all the time you need. Agent Martinez handed Maya a business card. When you're ready to learn more, give me a call. After Agent Martinez left, Maya sat alone in the conference room, trying to process everything that had happened. The shooting competition had been intended as a fun way to try something new and support charity. Instead, it had revealed abilities she never suspected and attracted attention from people and organizations she had never imagined interacting with. That evening, Maya called her parents to ask about her grandfather, Edward. Her mother seemed reluctant to discuss him in detail, explaining only that he had died in a workplace accident when she was 16 and that it had been a difficult time for the family. Did he ever serve in the military? Maya asked. I think so, but I'm not sure. My mother destroyed most of his belongings after he died. She said it was too painful to keep them around. Mom, this might be important. Can you tell me anything else about it? Her mother paused for a long time. Maya, why are you asking about your grandfather now? He died over 30 years ago. Maya explained about the shooting competition and the subsequent attention from law enforcement agencies. Her mother listened without interruption, her silence growing longer as Maya described Agent Martinez's visit. Maya, her mother finally, said, I think you need to talk to your grandmother. She's the only one who really knew your grandfather well. But I'm warning you, she's never wanted to discuss him, and I don't know if she'll be willing to start now. Maya's grandmother lived in a retirement community about 2 hours away. They had always had a good relationship, though her grandmother had always been somewhat reserved about family history. Maya had attributed this to the general reluctance many older people felt about dwelling on the past. Saturday morning, Maya drove to Meadowbrook Retirement Community to visit her grandmother, Eleanor. She found the elderly woman tending to flowers in the community garden, her hands still steady and precise despite her 83 years. "Maya, what a wonderful surprise," Eleanor said. "I wasn't expecting to see you this weekend." "Grandma, I need to ask you about grandfather Edward. It's important." Eleanor's expression changed immediately, becoming guarded and wary. "Why are you asking about him now? He's been gone for over 30 years. Maya explained about the shooting competition and everything that had followed. As she described her unexpected marksmanship ability and the attention it had attracted, she watched her grandmother's face carefully for reactions. When Maya finished her story, Eleanor was quiet for several minutes. She continued working with her flowers, her movements more deliberate and slow than usual. "Your grandfather was a sniper," Eleanor finally said. "World War II, then Korea. He never talked about it much, but I knew he was exceptionally skilled at long-range shooting. The military recognized his abilities and used him in specialized roles." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Why didn't anyone ever tell me this? Edward made me promise never to discuss his military service with the family. He said those skills belonged to a different time and a different person. He wanted to leave that part of his life behind completely. But, Grandma, maybe I inherited some of his abilities." The FBI agent suggested that marksmanship skills could be genetic. Eleanor set down her gardening tools and looked directly at her granddaughter. "Maya, your grandfather was one of the most effective military marksmen of his generation. His record was classified, but I know he saved many lives and completed missions that others couldn't handle." "What happened to him?" "Mom said it was a workplace accident." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "It wasn't an accident, Maya. Edward took his own life. The memories of what he had done during the wars, even though it was necessary and honorable service, became too much for him to bear. He couldn't live with the weight of it anymore." Maya felt the world shift around her. Everything she thought she understood about her family history was incomplete. Her remarkable shooting ability wasn't just a random talent. It was a genetic inheritance from a grandfather whose skills had been both a gift and a burden. "That's why I destroyed his belongings and never talked about him," Eleanor continued. "I was terrified that those abilities might surface in his children or grandchildren. I hoped they would remain buried forever." Maya sat in stunned silence, realizing that her extraordinary performance at the shooting competition had revealed much more than just an unexpected hobby. She had discovered a family legacy that carried both incredible potential and profound responsibility. The simple decision to participate in a charity event had connected her to a grandfather she had never known and abilities that were both remarkable and troubling. As she drove home from the retirement community, Maya understood that her life had changed in ways she was only beginning to comprehend. Maya spent the following week in a state of emotional turmoil. The revelation about her grandfather Edward had transformed her understanding of the shooting competition from a surprising discovery of talent into something much more complex and troubling. She found herself questioning whether she should pursue her newfound abilities or follow her grandmother's wishes and leave them undeveloped. The calls and emails continued to arrive. Shooting sports organizations wanted to sponsor her training. Military contractors offered lucrative positions. Television producers proposed documentary projects about her story. Maya ignored them all, but the persistence of the attention made it impossible to pretend her life could simply return to normal. Wednesday evening brought another unexpected visitor to her apartment. Maya answered the door to find an elderly man in his 70s, well-dressed, and carrying himself with the upright bearing of someone with military background. "Ms. Chun, my name is Colonel James Mitchell, retired. I served with your grandfather in Korea." Maya felt her breath catch. "You knew Edward Morrison?" "I did. May I come in? I think there are things you need to know about him that your family never understood." Maya invited Colonel Mitchell into her living room, offering him coffee while trying to process this latest development. Her grandfather's past seemed to be emerging from decades of silence with increasing frequency. "How did you find me?" Maya asked. "When the story about your shooting performance reached certain military circles, your name was flagged in our veteran databases. Morrison isn't a common name, and when we realized you might be Edward's granddaughter, several of us felt we owed it to his memory to reach out." Colonel Mitchell pulled out a worn photograph showing two young soldiers in military uniforms. Maya recognized one of them as her grandfather from family pictures, though he looked much younger and more serious than in any photo she had seen before. "Edward was the finest marksman I ever served with," Colonel Mitchell began. "But more than that, he was a man of extraordinary character who used his abilities to save lives rather than simply take them. My grandmother told me he became troubled by what he had done during the wars. That's a misunderstanding that has persisted for too long," the colonel said firmly. "Edward never killed anyone who wasn't an immediate threat to other people. His role was primarily defensive, protecting advancing troops, eliminating enemy snipers who were targeting our soldiers, and providing cover for rescue operations." Maya felt a mixture of relief and confusion. But why'd he take his own life if his service was honorable? Colonel Mitchell's expression became sad. "Edward died in what appeared to be a hunting accident, not suicide. He was alone in the woods, and his rifle discharged accidentally. Your grandmother, overwhelmed by grief and lacking understanding of his military service, convinced herself it was intentional." "Are you certain about this?" "I was one of the people who investigated the accident. There was no evidence of suicidal intent, no note, and no prior indication of mental health struggles. Edward had actually been planning a vacation with your grandmother for the following month." Maya felt as though her understanding of family history was being rewritten again. The tragic narrative her grandmother had carried for decades was based on a misinterpretation of events. Why didn't anyone correct this understanding at the time? Your grandmother refused to discuss Edward's death with anyone who had served with him. She cut off contact with all his military friends and colleagues. We respected her grief and didn't push, but we always regretted that the truth about his character and service was lost. Colonel Mitchell opened a briefcase and removed a collection of documents and photographs. "These are some of Edward's military records that were declassified years ago. I thought you might want to understand what kind of man he really was." Maya examined the documents with fascination. Her grandfather's service record showed multiple commendations for actions that had saved the lives of fellow soldiers. His marksmanship scores were extraordinarily high, but the narrative that emerged was of someone who used precision shooting to protect others rather than for aggressive purposes. "Edward once told me that perfect marksmanship was about responsibility," Colonel Mitchell said. "Every shot had to count because lives depended on it. He took that responsibility very seriously." "Do you think I inherited his abilities?" "From what I've read about your performance, absolutely. But more importantly, you seem to have inherited his character. The way you've handled all the attention and pressure suggests you understand that exceptional abilities come with obligations." Maya thought about the various offers and opportunities she had declined. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do with these skills. Everyone wants me to use them, but I'm not sure I want to change my entire life." "You don't have to change your life dramatically," Colonel Mitchell replied. "But you might consider using your abilities in ways that would honor your grandfather's legacy. He believed that exceptional skills should serve others, not just personal advancement." "What do you mean?" "There are ways to use marksmanship skills that don't involve military service or law enforcement. Training programs for other people who want to develop their abilities. Safety instruction. Even competitive shooting can inspire others to pursue excellence in their own fields." Colonel Mitchell handed Maya a business card. "I run a nonprofit organization that provides marksmanship training for various groups. Police officers who need to improve their skills, competitive shooters preparing for national events, even farmers who need to control wildlife that threatens their crops. You want me to become an instructor? I want you to consider sharing your gift in ways that benefit others. Your natural ability could help many people achieve their own goals more effectively." After Colonel Mitchell left, Maya called her grandmother to share what she had learned about Edward's true military record and the circumstances of his death. Eleanor listened in stunned silence as Maya described the evidence that her husband had died accidentally rather than by suicide. All these years, I blamed myself for not recognizing signs that weren't there, Eleanor said through tears. I convinced myself that his military service had damaged him beyond repair. Grandma, Edward was a hero who used his abilities to protect other people. There's nothing shameful about what he did or who he was. Maya, does this change how you feel about your own abilities? Maya considered the question carefully. I think it means I have a responsibility to use them well. I'm not sure exactly what that means yet, but I know I can't just pretend they don't exist. The next few days brought a shift in Maya's thinking about her situation. Instead of feeling burdened by unwanted attention and pressure to make dramatic life changes, she began to consider how she might use her abilities in positive ways without abandoning the life she had built in Cedar Falls. She called Agent Martinez to decline the FBI consulting position, but to ask about training opportunities that might help her understand her abilities better. She contacted Colonel Mitchell to learn more about his nonprofit organization. She even called back one of the competitive shooting sponsors to ask about local training programs rather than professional competition. Marcus was delighted when Maya visited his gun shop to discuss purchasing her own equipment for regular practice. I knew you'd decide to pursue this, he said. It would be a waste to ignore such remarkable natural ability. I'm not planning to become a professional shooter, Maya clarified, but I want to understand these skills better and maybe find ways to help other people develop their own abilities. That sounds exactly like something your grandfather would have supported, Marcus replied. Maya arranged to begin regular training sessions at the Cedar Falls shooting range, working with Tom to develop more advanced techniques while maintaining the fundamentals that had served her so well in the competition. She was surprised to discover how much she enjoyed the technical aspects of marksmanship and the mental discipline required for consistent accuracy. Word of Maya's decision to continue developing her shooting skills spread through the local community. The elementary school principal asked if she would consider teaching a firearms safety course for teachers who were interested in learning basic gun handling. The police chief inquired about her availability to help with marksmanship training for officers who needed to improve their scores for qualification. Maya found these requests much more appealing than the dramatic career changes that had been proposed by various organizations. She could contribute meaningfully to her community while continuing her work at the library and maintaining the quiet life she valued. 3 weeks after the shooting competition, Maya participated in her first formal training session with Colonel Mitchell's organization. The experience was revelatory in ways she hadn't anticipated. Working with experienced instructors and observing other developing marksmen helped her understand that her abilities, while exceptional, were most valuable when shared with others. Your grandfather would be proud, Colonel Mitchell told her after watching her help a struggling police officer improve his accuracy. You're using your gift exactly as he would have wanted. Maya realized that the shooting competition had been more than just an unexpected discovery of talent. It had connected her to family history she had never known, revealed abilities that came with both opportunity and responsibility, and open possibilities for contributing to her community in ways she had never imagined. The quiet librarian who had stumbled into marksmanship excellence was learning that some discoveries change everything, not because they require abandoning who you are, but because they reveal who you might become. Her grandfather's legacy was no longer a burden of family secrets and misunderstood tragedy, but a gift that could be shared with others who needed the confidence and skill that precise shooting could provide. As Maya packed up her equipment after the training session, she reflected on how much her understanding of herself and her family had evolved in just a few weeks. The revelation of her grandfather's true character and service had transformed her perception of the abilities she had inherited. Rather than feeling pressured to pursue dramatic changes, she felt motivated to use her skills in ways that honored both his memory and her own values. The most important realization was that exceptional abilities didn't require exceptional life changes. Maya could remain the person she had always been while adding new dimensions to how she served others. Her marksmanship skills would become part of who she was without defining everything about who she was. The mystery of where her abilities had come from was solved, but the question of where they would take her remained an exciting uncertainty filled with positive possibilities. 6 months after the charity shooting competition that had changed her life, Maya Chun stood at the firing line of the Cedar Falls shooting range preparing to demonstrate advanced marksmanship techniques to a group of law enforcement officers from 3 surrounding counties. Her transformation from complete beginner to respected instructor had been remarkable, but it felt natural rather than overwhelming. Today we're going to focus on precision shooting under pressure, Maya announced to the 12 officers gathered behind her. The principles are the same whether you're engaging targets at the range or dealing with real-world situations where accuracy is critical. Detective Sarah Williams from the County Sheriff's Department raised her hand. Maya, how do you maintain such consistent accuracy when the stakes are high? I can shoot well during practice, but my performance drops during qualification tests. Maya smiled, remembering when she had asked Tom similar questions during her own early training. Pressure affects everyone differently, but the key is trusting your fundamentals so completely that they become automatic. When your basic technique is rock solid, your conscious mind is free to focus on the situation rather than worrying about mechanics. She demonstrated by engaging a series of targets at varying distances while maintaining a running commentary about her thought process. Each shot found its mark precisely, but more importantly, her explanations helped the officers understand how to apply the same principles to their own shooting. The training program Maya had developed with Colonel Mitchell's organization had grown beyond their initial expectations. What started as occasional workshops had evolved into a comprehensive curriculum that served multiple law enforcement agencies, competitive shooters, and even civilian groups interested in firearms safety and marksmanship. Maya's approach emphasized understanding rather than just repetition. She helped people analyze their individual challenges and develop personalized solutions rather than trying to force everyone into the same techniques. Her background as a librarian, with its emphasis on research and individualized assistance, translated perfectly to firearms instruction. The mental game is more important than most people realize, Maya told the officers as they prepared for live fire exercises. Your grandfather understood this better than anyone, she thought to herself, remembering the conversations with Colonel Mitchell about Edward's approach to precision shooting. After the morning training session, Maya returned to the Cedar Falls Library for her regular afternoon shift. The combination of her 2 roles had created an interesting dynamic in the community. People who knew her as the helpful librarian were often surprised to learn about her marksmanship abilities, while those who knew her as an instructor were amazed by her knowledge of literature and research techniques. Maya, there's someone here to see you, said Janet, her co-worker at the reference desk. She says it's about a special project. Maya found a woman in her 30s waiting by the biography section. She introduced herself as Dr. Lisa Chun, a sports psychologist who worked with Olympic athletes. I'm not related, despite the name, Dr. Chun said with a smile. I'm here because I've been studying your case for a research project about the development of exceptional abilities in adults. My case? Maya asked. Your progression from complete beginner to expert-level marksman in such a short time is unprecedented in the literature. I'd like to understand how you developed your skills so quickly, particularly the mental aspects of your performance. Maya had grown comfortable discussing her abilities and the discovery of her family history. She explained about her grandfather's military service, the genetic component that Colonel Mitchell had suggested, and the training methods that had helped her develop her potential. What's most interesting is how you've integrated these abilities into your existing life, Dr. Chen observed. Most people who discover exceptional talents feel pressure to make them the center of their identity. You found a way to use your abilities meaningfully without abandoning who you were before. I never wanted to become a different person, Maya replied. I just wanted to understand what I was capable of and use it in ways that felt right to me. Dr. Chun took notes as Maya described her approach to balancing her library work with her shooting instruction. Would you be willing to participate in a research study? We're trying to understand how adults can develop high-level skills later in life, and your experience could help many people. Maya agreed to participate, intrigued by the possibility that her experience might benefit others who discovered unexpected abilities. The research would involve performance testing, interviews about her training methods, and analysis of her teaching techniques. That evening, Maya called her grandmother to share the latest developments. Eleanor had become much more supportive of Maya's shooting activities after learning the truth about Edward's military service and character. Your grandfather would be amazed by everything you've accomplished, Eleanor said. He always believed that skills should be shared with others, and that's exactly what you're doing. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had never received that invitation to the shooting competition, Maya mused. I think you would have found your way to these abilities eventually, Eleanor replied. Some things are meant to be discovered when the time is right. Maya's reputation in the shooting community continued to grow, but she remained selective about opportunities. She had turned down several offers to compete professionally, preferring to focus on instruction and community service. Her approach had influenced other instructors to emphasize teaching and development rather than just performance. The next morning brought an unexpected call from Agent Martinez. Maya, I have a proposition that might interest you. We're developing a new training program for federal agents, and we'd like you to consult on the curriculum design. What kind of consulting? Helping us understand how to identify and develop natural marksmanship ability in our trainees. Your insights about learning progression and mental preparation could improve our training effectiveness significantly. Maya considered the offer carefully. I'd be interested in helping with curriculum design, but I want to maintain my current schedule and commitments here in Cedar Falls. That's exactly what we had in mind. Remote consultation with occasional visits to review training protocols. Your perspective as someone who developed exceptional abilities through structured learning could revolutionize how we approach marksmanship instruction. Maya accepted the consulting position, seeing it as an opportunity to influence training methods on a larger scale while maintaining her established life in Cedar Falls. The work would complement her existing instruction programs and provide insights that could benefit both federal agents and local law enforcement officers. 3 weeks later, Maya found herself at the FBI training facility in Quantico, observing current marksmanship instruction methods and interviewing trainees about their learning experiences. The contrast between traditional approaches and her own methods was striking. Most programs focus heavily on physical technique, she explained to the training supervisors. But the mental aspects are equally important. Understanding how different people process visual information, manage stress, and develop muscle memory can dramatically improve learning outcomes. Her recommendations led to significant changes in the FBI's marksmanship curriculum. Instructors began spending more time on individual assessment and personalized training approaches. The emphasis shifted from standardized techniques to helping each trainee discover methods that worked best for their learning style and physical characteristics. 6 months into the consulting arrangement, the FBI reported substantial improvements in training success rates and overall marksmanship scores among new agents. Maya's influence on federal law enforcement training had created ripple effects that benefited thousands of people. Back in Cedar Falls, Maya's dual career as librarian and marksmanship instructor had become part of the community's identity. Visitors to the town often heard about the remarkable woman who could help you find any book in the library and then teach you to hit any target on the shooting range. You've become something of a local legend, Marcus told her during one of their regular conversations at his gun shop. People drive here from other states just to train with you. That was never my goal, Maya replied. I just wanted to understand my abilities and use them well. Sometimes the best legends are created by people who weren't trying to become legendary, Marcus observed. Maya's story had inspired numerous articles about late-in-life skill development and the importance of remaining open to new experiences. Educational researchers studied her case to understand how adults could discover and develop hidden talents. Sports psychologists analyzed her training methods to improve their work with athletes in various disciplines. The quiet librarian who had stumbled upon extraordinary marksmanship ability had become an example of how unexpected discoveries could enrich life without overwhelming it. Her success in balancing her original identity with her new capabilities demonstrated that exceptional abilities didn't require exceptional sacrifices. 1 year after the charity shooting competition, Maya returned to the same range for the annual event. This time, she participated as both a competitor and an instructor, helping other beginners experience the same welcoming introduction to shooting sports that had started her journey. As she watched new participants discover their own potential, Maya reflected on how much her life had expanded without fundamentally changing direction. Her grandfather's legacy lived on through her teaching. Her community had benefited from her willingness to share her abilities, and her own understanding of what was possible had grown immeasurably. The most important lesson she had learned was that extraordinary abilities could emerge at any time in anyone's life. The key was remaining open to discovery, willing to develop unexpected talents, and committed to using those abilities in service of others rather than just personal achievement. Maya Chun had become exactly who she was meant to be, a person who could help others find information in books and accuracy on target ranges, someone who honored her family's legacy while creating her own unique contribution to her community. Her story proved that the most remarkable transformations often came not from abandoning who you are, but from discovering who you might become when you embrace unexpected possibilities with courage and wisdom. The 15 minutes that had revealed her exceptional marksmanship ability had led to a lifetime of meaningful service and personal growth. Maya's journey from complete beginner to respected instructor and consultant demonstrated that some discoveries don't change your life so much as they reveal the life you are always capable of living.